Imagine a man alone, surrounded by the powerful false prophets and a crowd that preferred to hear comforting lies. That man was Micaiah, a prophet who chose truth in the midst of corruption, even knowing it could cost him his freedom or even his life. In a world where lies often seem to win, his story is a striking reminder that truth, even when unpopular, always prevails. Have you ever stopped to think about what you would be willing to sacrifice for the truth? Micaiah was not just a prophet. He was an ordinary man, like you and me, but with extraordinary courage. He faced kings, false prophets, and even imprisonment, all to fulfill his mission, to speak the truth. In a time where convenience often dictates our choices, his story challenges us to reflect. How often do we choose silence over confronting injustice? How can we be voices of truth in our communities? Micaiah's story is not just about the past. It is about the present. In a world where truth is often sacrificed in the name of power, he is an example of integrity that echoes to this day. His courage in the Bible inspires us to be better, to choose a harder but honorable path. And you, how have you been facing the pressures to conform to what is wrong? Have you chosen the path of integrity, even when it seems lonely? Micaiah leaves us with a powerful lesson. Truth is non-negotiable. He could have conformed, like the 400 false prophets, but he chose a path of faithfulness to God. In a world where convenience often dictates our choices, his story challenges us to reflect. What truly matters to us? Are we willing to pay the price for truth? The story of Micaiah and the false prophets inspires us to stand firm in our convictions. Finally, Micaiah's story invites us to act. He did not just speak the truth. He lived the truth. His life challenges us to think. How can we apply Micaiah's courage and integrity in our daily lives? How about starting small, choosing truth in everyday situations, even when it seems easier to lie? The story of Micaiah is an inspiring biblical story that challenges us to be better, to choose truth, even when it is difficult. Imagine a man alone, surrounded by the powerful false prophets and a crowd that preferred to hear comforting lies. This was Micaiah, a prophet who lived in a time when the kings of Israel sought divine approval, but only when it was convenient. While other prophets told the king what he wanted to hear, Micaiah had a mission: to speak the truth no matter the cost. His story is a testament of courage in the Bible, an example of integrity that echoes to this day. Micaiah was not just another prophet. He was a man who understood the weight of words and the responsibility of being a messenger of God. In a world where truth was often sacrificed in the name of power, he chose a harder but more honorable path. His life teaches us that truth, even when unpopular, always prevails. And have you ever stopped to think about how often we choose silence instead of confronting injustice? The historical context of Micaiah is crucial to understanding his courage. He lived in a time when the kings of Israel, like Ahab, sought divine approval only when it was convenient. While 400 prophets proclaimed victory, Micaiah was the only one who dared to speak the truth. His story challenges us to reflect. Are we willing to pay the price of truth? How can we be voices of truth in our communities? Micaiah's courage was not just physical, but also spiritual. He faced not only a king, but an entire corrupt system that preferred comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths. His integrity in the Bible is an example for all of us, especially in times of injustice. And how have you been facing the pressures to conform to what is wrong? Micaiah leaves us a legacy of faith and integrity. His story is not just about the past, but a call to all of us to choose truth, even when it is difficult. How about reflecting on how we can be Micaiahs in our own time? How can we apply his courage and integrity in our daily lives? The story of Micaiah is an inspiring biblical story that challenges us to be better. The scene is dramatic. Micaiah is summoned before King Ahab and King Jehoshaphat. While 400 prophets proclaim victory, he is pressured to agree. Imagine the tension in the air, the anticipation of everyone present. Micaiah, however, does not yield. He responds with irony, saying, "Go up and triumph, for the Lord will give into the hand of the king." But that was not the truth, and he knew it. The decisive moment was about to happen. Micaiah then reveals a vision given by God, a defeated army and the king dead. The narrative tension is palpable. How did he stand firm? even knowing that his words could cost him his freedom or his life. His courage in the Bible is an example for all of us, especially in moments of great pressure. And you, how would you react in such a situation? The confrontation between Micaiah and the false prophets is one of the most thrilling moments in biblical history. While everyone around him preferred comforting lies, he chose the truth, even knowing it could cost him dearly. His integrity in the Bible teaches us that truth, even when unpopular, always prevails. And you, have you ever faced a situation where you had to choose between truth and comfort? Micaiah's heavenly vision is one of the highlights of this story. He described an awe-inspiring scene, God on his throne, surrounded by angels, deciding the fate of Israel. This vision teaches us about God's sovereignty and the nature of truth. And you, have you ever stopped to think about how powerful truth can be, even when it seems like we are alone? Micaiah faced not just a king, but an entire corrupt system. His courage to speak the truth challenges us to reflect on our own lives. How can we be voices of truth in our communities? How can we apply Micaiah's courage and integrity in our daily lives? The story of Micaiah and King Ahab is an inspiring biblical story that challenges us to be better. Micaiah did not just speak the truth. He revealed a heavenly vision that left everyone speechless. He described God on his throne, surrounded by angels, deciding the fate of Israel. This awe-inspiring scene was not just a metaphor, but a direct revelation of divine sovereignty. Imagine the scene. The heavens opened, the majesty of God, and a prophet courageous enough to deliver this message, even knowing it would not be well received. What does this vision teach us about the nature of truth and the spiritual warfare happening behind the scenes? Micaiah's vision goes beyond the physical. It delves into the spiritual. He reveals how a deceiving spirit was sent to mislead the false prophets, leading them to preach lies. This makes us reflect. How often in our lives are we tempted to believe illusions because they are more comfortable than the truth? Spiritual warfare is real, and Micaiah shows us that discernment and courage are essential to avoid falling into the traps of deception. How have you been dealing with the voices around you? Have you been seeking the truth or settling for what is easy to hear? The sovereignty of God is a central theme in Micaiah's vision. It reminds us that no matter how much men try to manipulate situations, it is God who is in control. This heavenly vision was not just for Ahab or Jehoshaphat. It was a message for all of us. In any era, when we face challenges, it is easy to feel small and powerless. But Micaiah's story teaches us that there is a heavenly throne where all decisions are made with justice and wisdom. Have you ever stopped to think that, no matter how chaotic the situation may seem, God is still in control? Micaiah's vision also challenges us to understand the role of false prophets and how they can influence important decisions. He not only confronted Ahab, but also exposed the falsehood of those who were supposed to be messengers of God. This leads us to a deep reflection: how we discern between truth and deception in our lives. Micaiah shows us that integrity in the Bible is not just about speaking the truth, but also about seeking the truth, even when it is hidden under layers of lies. Finally, Micaiah's heavenly vision invites us to look beyond what we see. He did not limit himself to what was before his eyes. He saw the supernatural and had the courage to share it, even knowing the consequences. And you, how have you been viewing the challenges in your life? Have you been seeking a heavenly perspective or limiting yourself to what is visible? The story of Micaiah and the spiritual warfare he faced inspires us to seek a broader vision, aligned with God's will. After his prophecy, Micaiah was not applauded as a hero. On the contrary, he was beaten and thrown into prison. King Ahab, furious with the message of defeat, ordered that he be kept in custody until his return in peace. Imagine the scene: Micaiah, hurt and alone, but with unshakable faith. He knew that truth had a price, and he was willing to pay it. And you, have you ever thought about what you would be willing to sacrifice to maintain your integrity? The dialogue between Micaiah and Ahab is gripping. Even in the face of the threat of imprisonment, Micaiah does not back down. He says, "If you return in peace, the Lord has not spoken through me." This statement is a blow of courage and faith. He not only accepted the punishment, but also made it clear that his loyalty was to God, not to the king. This makes us reflect. How often do we, in smaller situations, given the pressure out of fear of the consequences, The story of Micaiah and King Ahab challenges us to stand firm, even when the cost is high. Micaiah's imprisonment was not just physical. It was also a test of his faith. He could have repented, asked the king for forgiveness, and changed his message, but he chose to remain faithful to the vision God had given him. His story teaches us that integrity in the Bible is not about convenience, but about consistency. And you, how have you been dealing with the prisons in your life? Have you kept your faith unshaken, even when everything seems to be against you? The price of integrity is high, but the legacy it leaves is eternal. Micaiah could have chosen the easy path, like the 400 false prophets, but he opted for the harder one, and in the end, his message proved true. This reminds us that truth, even when silenced, always finds a way to prevail. How have you been facing the pressures to conform to what is wrong? Have you chosen the path of integrity, even when it seems lonely? Micaiah leaves us with a powerful lesson. Integrity is not about being popular, but about being faithful. He paid a high price for his courage, but his story echoes to this day as an example of faith and resistance. And you, how can you apply this lesson in your life? How about starting small, choosing truth in everyday situations, even when it seems easy to lie? The story of Micaiah is an inspiring biblical story that challenges us to be better, even when the cost is high. In a world where truth is often sacrificed in the name of power, the story of Micaiah resonates with striking urgency. He is not just a figure from the past. He is a living example of how courage and integrity can challenge corrupt and unjust systems. How often, today, do we find ourselves in situations where lies are more convenient than the truth? Micaiah reminds us that truth, even when unpopular, always prevails. And you, how have you been dealing with the injustices around you? Micaiah's courage was not just about facing a king. It was about confronting an entire system that preferred comfortable lies. Today, we may not stand before kings, but we face similar pressures at work, in our families, in society. How often do we choose silence over confronting injustice? Micaiah challenges us to be voices of truth, even when it means swimming against the tide. How can you be a Micaiah in your community? Micaiah's integrity teaches us that truth is non-negotiable. He could have conformed, like the 400 false prophets, but he chose the path of faithfulness to God. In a world where convenience often dictates our choices, his story challenges us to reflect. What truly matters? To us, are we willing to pay the price for truth? The story of Micaiah and the false prophets inspires us to stand firm in our convictions. Micaiah also shows us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. He knew that his words could cost him his freedom or even his life, yet he chose to speak. And you, how have you been facing your fears? Have you allowed them to silence you, or have you found the strength to act, even when it is difficult? The courage in the Bible, like that of Micaiah, inspires us to be braver in our daily lives. Finally, Micaiah's story invites us to reflect on our legacy. He was not just a prophet. He was a symbol of resistance and faithfulness to God. His life challenges us to think, what kind of legacy do we want to leave? One of conformity and silence, or one of courage and integrity? The biblical story of Micaiah and Jehoshaphat inspires us to be better, to choose truth, even when it is difficult. And you, how can you start building that legacy today? The story of Micaiah does not end with him. It continues in each of us. His courage, integrity, and unshakable faith challenge us to be voices of truth in a world that often prefers silence. And you, how can you apply Micaiah's legacy in your life? How about starting small, choosing truth in everyday situations, even when it seems easy to lie? The story of Micaiah and King Ahab inspires us to stand firm in our convictions. Micaiah showed us that truth is non-negotiable. He could have conformed, like the 400 false prophets, but he chose the path of faithfulness to God. In a world where convenience often dictates our choices, his story challenges us to reflect. What truly matters to us? Are we willing to pay the price for truth? The story of Micaiah and the false prophets inspires us to stand firm in our convictions. Micaiah's courage was not just about facing a king. It was about confronting an entire system that preferred comfortable lies. Today, we may not stand before kings, but we face similar pressures at work, in our families, in society. How often do we choose silence over confronting injustice? Micaiah challenges us to be voices of truth, even when it means swimming against the tide. How can you be a Micaiah in your community? Micaiah also teaches us that true power does not lie in the throne, but in integrity. He could have chosen the easy path, like the 400 false prophets, but he opted for the harder one. And in the end, his message proved true. This reminds us that truth, even when unpopular, always prevails. How have you been facing the pressures to conform to what is wrong? Have you chosen the path of integrity, even when it seems lonely? Finally, Micaiah's legacy invites us to act. He did not just speak the truth, he lived the truth. His life challenges us to think, how can we apply Micaiah's courage and integrity in our daily lives? How about starting small, choosing truth in everyday situations, even when it seems easier to lie? The story of Micaiah is an inspiring biblical story that challenges us to be better, to choose truth, even when it is difficult. And are you ready to be a Micaiah in your time? Then don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue learning about inspiring biblical stories that can transform your life. Let's walk together on this journey of faith, courage, and integrity.